Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to episode 43 of Talk4, the quickfire podcast where we ask four great questions to unique and interesting people. Behind the mic today is your host, Skupien, and our very special guest for today, Jake Huang, who's going to be answering some questions today. Hope I got it right. Jake, please say hi, introduce yourself, and give us a quick rundown of who you are and what you do before I shoot some questions.
Thanks for having me, Lewis. My name is Jake Huang. I am a Hollywood stuntman. I worked on quite a few feature films and TV shows that I'm sure we'll get into later, and I probably don't even remember. But but yeah, I will. Yeah, working in film industry for the last 15 years, and specialized in martial arts initially, and then got into a lot more stuff along the way. I'm sure we'll get into it. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely will. And yeah, so taking a look at your CV, and geez, man, you've worked on a lot of stuff and all really cool stuff. One of my favorite shows, SEAL Team, you've done stuff from there, games, The Last of Us, and very recently Cobra Kai as well, season 5. Wow, that was a fantastic season and great show. And I really hope to see you back for a season 6 at some point. But for now, I have four really good questions lined up for you today. So if you're ready to go, should we jump on to question number 1?
Yeah, perfect. Let's do it.
Awesome, let's do it. Right, so for my first question, Jake, tell me about your backstory. So how did you get into fight choreography and stunt work, and what was your motivation behind it, and how did it progress to the awesome roles that you've landed?
How did I get in? So I grew up doing martial arts. I started off with a style that was loosely based on Taekwondo and kind of a mix of Jeet Kune Do and Taekwondo together. It was a Junri school. For anyone on the East Coast, they might know who he is, but Junri used to train with like Bruce Lee and stuff, and then he adapted the Jeet Kune Do style to his Korean Taekwondo style, and they created a whole chain of schools off on the East Coast of the United States. And then growing up, my dad was very into Chinese kung fu movies, and then Jackie Chan. Grew up watching him. He was one of my biggest idols as a kid, and that's what got me actually to get back into martial arts a little more seriously, and then pursue it as a career. Eventually, it's performance and stuff. Jackie kind of took it to the next level. I've always kind of admired that. Obviously, I watched Bruce Lee, Jet Li, and all the all of the films that you would expect, but for some reason I always gravitated to Jackie, and his theatrical style, and just his storytelling ability. Physical storytelling is just phenomenal. So yeah, and then I moved out to LA after dropping out of college and deciding that wasn't for me. Went to pursue stunts, not really knowing what I was getting myself into, not knowing really anyone, and kind of worked my way up from there. I've had a couple people who were really helpful and amazing along the way. One of them, namely Don Lee. He's phenomenal stunt man, martial artist, fight choreographer, stunt coordinator, and now director. I don't know, in Cobra Kai season 5, he actually got his directing debut directing that fight. If anyone's ever seen the show, the beatdown, the Johnny beatdown at the very end where he beats down the 6 senseis. He directed that whole fight and everything, so that was his directing debut. Phenomenal dude. And so just been kind of worked on a lot of projects and kind of made my way through that way, just picking up different skill sets and learning as I go. A lot of really amazing people I've come across.
Yeah, I can imagine. And so, looking back through your history and stuff on your YouTube channel too, you had a little parkour reel going on as well. So how, man, you had some good moves, and I've had a few parkour guests on before, like Dom Di Tommaso and Toby Sager from Stora and stuff. And yeah, I saw your videos, man. You got some legs on you and some good skills, and I can imagine that really helped in in all these roles of yours and stuff too. And yeah, talking about, the beatdown and Cobra Kai and stuff, this actually leads really well onto my second question. So yeah, tell me about Cobra Kai. How did you actually get this role, and what was it like working on this incredibly popular series?
So I started with Cobra Kai in season 4. I was playing I was kind of the utility guy. I would run around and play all the guys getting beat up in the background or beating somebody up, as just your general Cobra Kai member, baddie, just
Mm.
going around hurting people. And then in season 5, I was brought in to do the similar role, where I would just fill in a lot of the spaces and take a lot of different responsibilities throughout the stunt crew. And then one of our guys who was going to play the role that I ended up playing dropped out, so they were scrambling to find somebody, and Don, who was on Cobra Kai as well as the stunt coordinator and fight coordinator, he pitched me as the person to fill in the spot, and that's a little work got into play. They had to sell me because producers were not terribly convinced right off the bat, apparently, about me being some badass sensei, mean looking dude. But then they pitched that I would be blonde hair and shave my head and make me look crazy, and it seemed to have it worked. So there I was.
Damn, yeah, no, that's really cool. I was gonna say it's almost weird seeing you come on the podcast without that classic blonde hair that I've got pretty used to now at this point. And yeah, pretty classy little entrance you and the other senseis had into the series, has to be said. Very cool. And I've got to ask it, how was it kicking Chosen and Johnny's asses? How did that feel, man?
Oh man. I will say I don't know who won that fight, to be honest. But it was a good one. I really enjoyed it. Yuji and Billy are phenomenal. They're great to work with. Amazing people. They came in and they grinded it out whenever they had time, in between all of their work. The workload was pretty crazy on that show. We cram a lot into the short amount of time we get to shoot an episode. So yeah, I mean, but man, that was a good time, fighting them and training with them and helping, just all around. We had a blast. Yeah, that day was a blur.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, that was a very, very cool fight scene. I've watched it many a time, and yeah, it has to be said, it must be pretty cool. I mean, I can imagine when you're getting cast for series and movies and stuff, you never really want to be the guy who gets his ass worked, basically, do you? And it's just kind of the cannon fodder of the series or something. So it must have been a pretty cool feeling to have these two legends and stuff, and you're really holding your own and definitely leaving a few bumps and bruises for the next morning after for them. So that's wildly cool. And anyway, so moving on to my third question then. This is going to be an interesting one, actually. So in this really awesome career of yours so far, Jake, what would you say has been your best stunt, coolest move, or proudest memory? If you have a few, then feel free to give a top 3 also. But do you have anything that's really stuck with you or that was really challenging?
um I don't know. I've done a lot. uh One of the coolest ones that I was kind of like a full circle moment for me is, I did the reshoots for Ninja Turtles, the remake, the Michael Bay remake. So I ended up being playing Splinter for one of the fights. It's the fight when the sewer gets raided and their lair gets raided, and Splinter is fighting off like 10 different guys, and it's a pretty cool sequence. I really enjoyed that one. That was that, and then I got to play Donatello in the same movie, for another fight. So those were cool experiences only because I grew up on Ninja Turtles, and that was, one of my instructors back in the day. He used to go to parties dressed as Ninja Turtles, and he came to our martial arts school one day dressed as Ninja Turtles for, just to like show off and stuff, and did some stuff, and that was one of the highlights of my childhood, watching that live, kind of bringing it and making it real. Yeah, and then I think as far as bringing it full circle, that one's probably it. As far as one of my like, I've done a lot of kind of interesting stunts. One of them that I sticks out to me is when I was working on a movie called Hollywood Adventures, and I actually got called in to double somebody that I didn't normally double on the show, on the movie. It was the guy who doubled him got injured that day, and so they were driving a convertible Mustang through a fence, and the fence pole somehow dislodged when they busted through the fence, and then came back and smacked him on the head while they were busting through it in the car. So he got sent to the hospital that day, and they obviously need to finish out the day, so they gave me a call like 2 in the morning and was like, "Hey, can you get down here in like 30 minutes?" And so I hopped in, suited up, and then they stuck me in the convertible, and then they were like, "All right, so here's the deal: you're going to be riding passenger, and then you got to switch into the driver's seat with the driver, and then you got to hop up onto the side of the convertible, and then there's going to be a 20-foot drop. You got to jump off of that and land in these boxes." It's like, all right, let's do it. I'm not, I've never done it before necessarily. I've jumped off of high stuff and done box catchers and things, but that was the first time I'd done it out of a moving vehicle, which was never on my to-do list, but suddenly was there. And that was a good night. Luckily, I had a good crew of people behind me to make sure I was safe. They built everything as safe as possible. But there's obviously the chance that something happens. You slip off the car while you're jumping over the fence and end up, just falling to the concrete. Stuff like that happens. Hope not often, ideally, but yeah. So that was one that stuck out to me as one of my more, I guess, standout ones that I've done. And then one of my most memorable experiences, what I call my personal schooling in the film industry, is I worked on a show called Avatar: Legend of Korra, and I did that for 3 to 4 years. I worked with them on all 4 books that they did, and man, that experience was incredible. I got to work with some of the most talented people I've met, even to this day. And the directors on the show, the writers, producers, everyone, just being able to sit there and choreograph with them, and we would go through the script and the fight sequences, and they would have something loose, and we would choreograph it together, and then I would have to do it, and we would film reference of me doing it, and then they would do an animatic, and then they would need some cleanup, so we would get some more detailed reference and get re-choreograph fight scenes and things that weren't working, and then it was, but the creative process involved and the caliber of people that were involved just made it one of the most educational experiences I have ever had. And I still use a lot of the skills I learned from that in actually what I do now, on my current project and all sorts of other projects along the way. One of the directors that I worked with on Korra is now directing Spider-Verse 2. Kind of shows the caliber of person that it is, that I was working with, and the team that they had. So phenomenal people, amazing, just super talented. So that, to me, that job was one of my most educational jobs ever. And I think that upped my film game, even though it was animation, it upped my film game to work with those creative people. Just exponentially.
That's absolutely fantastic. And that sounds so cool. And would you say then that that was your favorite project you've worked on? Because looking at the list, you've done SEAL Team, SWAT, The Last of Us, Walking Dead, Cobra Kai. Was that your favorite then, or was there something else that you was like your favorite project, you'd say?
Favorite is hard to say because
They all have
it
their
really
pros
has a
and
lot
cons,
to
yeah.
yeah, it really has a lot to do with the group of people you end up with. And because coming in and doing things, there's certain things that are like done with like as passion. Like for example, Legend of Korra was very much a passion project, so everyone was extremely passionate. But it wasn't my highest paying job, that's for sure. I don't think it was anyone on that show's highest paying job. But and then I've worked on some really amazing like jobs, like between Transformers, Star Trek, and things like that were humongous budgets, but they were just nonstop, and I can't even remember day to day. If you asked me any specific question on them, I wouldn't even be able to remember because we were working nonstop the whole time. And
Mm.
it was everything has its pros and cons in it. I will say one of the last ones that I worked on that I was super pumped about is called Weird. It's actually releasing, I think, November 4th. And wait, is that today? Yeah. So
There it
it's
is.
releasing today. And it's on Roku, but Weird is the Weird Al Yankovic biopic or biopic, however you pronounce it. And that one, I stunt coordinated that movie, and it was one of the best crews I've been able to work with. Everyone from top to bottom, between Al himself, he was there every single day, sitting by, just doing his thing, making sure everything was the way he wanted it for his movie about him. And then the director, Eric Appel, he phenomenal dude, just amazing. Really really creative. He helped write the script with Al, and they came up with something crazy amazing. Zach, my producer, who was on that, he phenomenal, just created such a good environment for everyone to live and work in, and be a family. And then Dan Radcliffe, he was phenomenal to work with too. He's just a superstar in all the possible ways you can imagine. Just kind, humble, hardworking, talented. He had a full schedule from the day he arrived in America or in LA to do that show. He had a full schedule from morning to night, and just wouldn't stop. Just learning the script, learning how to play the accordion, dance lessons, choreography lessons, fight classes that I put on for him. We did some parkour stuff, we did some all sorts of things, and he's just always there, just always switched on and ready to go, and again, just the kindest dude ever. So I mean, top to bottom, that was the last show that I worked on that one's going down in history for me. So yeah.
That's brilliant. No, you've really rubbed shoulders with some amazing people, and the stuff that you've done and the roles you've had are just fantastic. But I have to say, now that you've mentioned it, I'm having a hard time imagining Harry Potter doing parkour. So you got to tell me, was he any good at it, or?
Phenomenal.
Really?
Honestly, I don't know why Dan. I mean, I have a feeling that he's not really like, oh, I want to be an action star, because he is very much like an actor's actor. Like he wants the drama, the roles that really he has to work for. Again, he's a super hard worker, and I think he is top notch with acting, and really wants to work on his acting. And so even though he could be an action star, like I could see him as the next Tom Cruise if he really wanted to be.
Wow.
He's phenomenal. He picked up on everything super quickly. He's willing to try. He was willing to, like he knew what his strengths and weaknesses were, so we could work on those and figure it out. And everything was pretty seamless. But parkour, he picked up a lot of the things really fast. Like we only had 2 days of actual in the gym training, and then it was just on set. And I think I got one extra rehearsal day with him, but we just did fights for those days, for that day. So it was he had a lot of fights in the film too. He had one big fight And then he had a couple small fights, and then there were some beats that he just had to learn on the day because we just didn't have time between the shooting schedule. So, um, but yeah, no, he was phenomenal. Like, I seriously think if someone wanted to pitch him for a major action film as the lead role, as the Tom Cruise, if you will, Mission Impossible 75, whatever they're on now, I think he would be perfect for it. So yeah, to answer your
Damn.
question.
Thank you very much. And yeah, that's really cool. I just had a hard time kind of wrapping my head around that, but I can see why he's got that sort of a build for it, that sort of a dynamic, versatile little build. And no, this is really cool. Yeah, everything you've done is just it's just brilliant. And I can imagine so many people must also want to go down this path. And yeah, that it leads well onto my last question as well. So for parkour athletes or martial artists or anyone who, let's say, was in a similar position to you when you were starting out, do you have any good tips for breaking into the movie and stunt industry and landing in good roles? And on the flip side of that, is there anything you think that should be avoided when going into this sort of an industry?
um Tips, it's hard because everyone has their own route to get to where they are. Some people, like, I was just listening to something on Steven Spielberg the other day, where he got to direct, he got signed for 7 pictures because he was just rubbing shoulders with people and just kind of like, trying to network and meet people. And then that's one way to do it, even in stunts, like you're good at what you do, or you're good at something, you can just meet a bunch of people think you're cool, and they'll give you a chance. So that's
Mm,
one way to do it. I will say there's not a ton of people who could get in that way, just because you have to find someone that is willing to give you that chance, which is pretty slim as it is, and then you have to not screw up when you get that chance, which is also not very easy to do, because you can screw up quite a bit.
yeah.
And then yeah, in our world, someone messing up means someone getting hurt. It's not just take two and we'll try again. It's like someone could die essentially if you mess up on
Mm,
your job. I don't think anyone's going to put a new guy in that position right away, but at the same time, it could happen. Um, Having said that, I will say that having a good head on your shoulders, like just being a stand-up person, that goes a long way. Um, to be hardworking, that goes a long way as well. To be really amazing at something, it doesn't have to be necessarily everything, but at something that you can be like, look, I've worked really hard. I can also work really hard for you. I think that goes a long way as well. And then biggest thing for me is check your ego at the door. Um, you're going to be asked to do things that you think are beneath you. You're going to do them, or you're not going to work for people. And it's a team mentality. At least who I came up with. Everything is very much a team mentality when it comes to um, being on a show. If today you're playing Hyan Woo of the Fist, and tomorrow you're cleaning out the bathroom at the stunt facility. Like, it just happens, and you can't just be like, no, I'm too good for cleaning out the bathrooms. I'm an actor now. It doesn't work that way. So I would say check your ego at the door. Just be a stand up person. Like, because the one Don Lee, one of the guys, one of my closest friends and amazing dude, he mentioned to me like this a long time ago, and it's stuck with me since. And it's basically, who you going to take camping with you? You're going to go out camping in the woods, middle of nowhere, no one around you, just you and like another dude. Who you going to take? And that's essentially who you would take to work with you on a movie, because you're going to go out in the middle of nowhere, a bunch of people that you probably don't know, and you're going to have to go through some really tough things together, and make a really good product. So if you're not willing to take out the trash and also jump off this building and do everything in between, then probably not going to take you with. So one-off jobs these days are not as hard to come by, but to build a career, I think these tips will help with building a career in this industry. And then more than anything, you gotta meet people and network, put yourself out there. YouTube is a great place. Instagram is a great place. TikTok, I'm not on TikTok, but I hear it's amazing to advertise yourself. But advertising yourself only gets you the foot in the door. But once your foot's in the door, you got to be a good person. You got to be humble. You got to be ready to work, and you got to be, you got to check your ego out the door, and be willing to put it in. So, yeah, between that, I hope that answers your question
It does.
well enough.
Those were fantastic points, and I can totally see exactly where you're coming from too. I've had a couple of actors on the podcast before, and the impression that I've got from them and the stuff that they've said is that the movie industry is obviously it's very ruthless. There's a lot of people getting paid a lot of money, and they all want to keep that money, and then they don't really take the time to really consider the people that they're employing and their health necessarily. And obviously the people doing stunt work, those are the people with the real kind of danger and the labor and stuff. I can imagine it's obviously very there's a lot of pressure involved in it too, because you're doing something where if you break a leg, then you don't really have much work then, do you? And you're not going to get employed and stuff. But at the same time, you've got the conundrum of these people who want their money's worth, and they want you to do all this stuff, and they're kind of just using you for the stunt work, and not taking your best interests obviously to heart or to mind in that situation. So it kind of makes me want to ask as well, if there is someone listening here who is getting their first role, they've got a role or something where they're being asked to do something that they're not comfortable with, or that they don't think they can do, or they're going to get hurt in it. Do you have any tips for sort of just fighting back against that slightly, or maintaining your standpoint in a situation like that?
Yeah, so
because you don't want to lose
I
that
think
job, obviously. And yeah.
Yeah, so I think for me, anything I stunt coordinate, I'm looking out for my people, because at the end of the day, they're your team, you're in charge of them. Their comfort, their discomfort, their injuries, they're kind of all on you at that point. That's the whole role of a stunt coordinator. Your job is to keep people safe, and obviously, making the action look amazing and stuff at the same time is part of it. But at the end of the day, the insurance company leans on you as a stunt coordinator to keep people safe, so they're not writing out checks to the hospitals. Having said that, if somebody is uncomfortable with doing something, and I'm stunt coordinating this film, which has happened before, people said, "Hey, I'm not comfortable doing that," and we'll figure out a way to make it work. It's my job to protect them and say, yeah, this person's, like, we're not going to give that to you that way, but here's some other options to achieve the same goal, right? And as their boss, it's my job to kind of have those conversations. They are tough conversations to have, and no one wants to say no. That no, this isn't possible, because that makes you look bad in a way. But at the same time, if you still achieve the same goal, a lot of times people are willing to work with that. I have experienced people who are not so willing to work with that. And then in those cases, at very worst case scenario, you say, okay, well, this is unsafe, and I feel like there's something bad's going to happen. So you can technically walk off the set and say, I quit, and I'm not going to do this in this fashion because it's unsafe to me. And that, like you said, if you break your leg, you're out of a job, right? For the next 6 months until you heal. So that's your livelihood. If you have kids, they don't eat for those 6 months if you don't have a job, right? Like, and it's just kind of that's just kind of how it works. You just got to be able to set your limits. And at the end of the day, your boss should be fighting for you. Unless you're the boss, then you got to fight for your people, right? But that's why I said it's kind of a team environment, and that goes back to the metaphor of camping. Like, if you break your leg in the woods, you want to bring someone who's going to carry you back. You don't want to bring someone who's like, yeah, that sucks, I'll see you later.
Exactly.
Yeah, or bears coming after you guys, and you don't want the guy that's going to trip you, so the bear catches you instead, right? Like,
Damn right.
that's kind of one of those things. So I would say that if you're a stunt performer and you feel uncomfortable doing something, did you have that conversation before, right? And you lied. If you lied about that, which has happened so many times, I've hired people who've lied, or people I've been on sets with people that have lied about what they can do, and then they're asked to do it and they can't do it. And so if you're in a scenario where you've lied, then you've already done something wrong. And I think the answer is pretty obvious there is what you should do. But if you haven't had this conversation before and it's just come up that, hey, they want you to jump off this thing, are you comfortable doing that? Then you say, no, I'm not comfortable doing that. That should be okay. But telling the truth is number one, because again, it's safety. So if you don't feel comfortable doing it, but then you say yes because you want them to like you or whatever, and then you do it, then you get hurt. That's not only do you look bad because you've messed up, but then the stunt coordinator looks bad because now they've gotten somebody injured. Because it doesn't matter if you weren't capable of doing it or not and you injured yourself, they're in charge of you. So I would just say tell the truth. It's scary and you may lose your job. It is a very, very real situation that they say, okay, I can't hire you for this job anymore because you can't do this thing. That's a very real possibility, but it is better than you making yourself look like an idiot, them never talking to you again, and also you getting so injured that you can't work ever again, because that's happened to some people too, where they've done stunts, they've gotten so injured that they had to leave the industry because their body is never going to heal the same, you know. So tell the truth, tell the truth.
Yeah,
You know, it's
that's
tough,
really good.
but yeah.
Really good points.
Yeah.
I totally agree there. And yeah, in all walks of life, it's the same thing, really, isn't it? But especially with what we're talking about here, it all just comes back down to the good qualities of a person, doesn't it? If you're honest and you're truthful and you don't lie, then good things will happen. And obviously, then that comes back down to the trust and teamwork side of things too, where you do need to communicate well exactly how you're feeling about something. And yeah, I can totally see how that would definitely prevent most issues from happening. And yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the bottom line of it is it's a bit like the meme, isn't it? That one where how does it go? It goes, yeah, when you lie to get yourself on the resume and then you're faced with the job or something. Yeah, you can lie all you want to get the job, but you can't bluff your way through a building jump, can you?
Yeah, exactly. That's you know, that's one of those moments where it's like you can do it or you can't, you know.
Damn right.
Um, yeah. So, but at the end of the day, if the team is good, then it shouldn't be a problem to be telling the truth. And you shouldn't be scared necessarily to tell the truth either. You should just, hey, I'm not comfortable doing this, and then here we go. You know, what's next? Do you need me to find someone? Because I've done that before, where not necessarily I haven't been comfortable doing something. I'm a little stupid where I'm pretty comfortable doing most things, but you know, for someone to be like, hey, I'm not comfortable doing this, do you need me to replace myself, right? Just taking that extra step is huge, because it's like, okay, you're like, it makes you from like a stand-up person to like a proactive stand-up person, which I want to keep around a proactive stand-up person. Just because you can't do this thing doesn't mean I'm not going to call you again for, you know, a 6-month movie down the road. You know, so I would just say, you know, at the end of the day, just if you're about the team and you're about like the project and the bigger picture, then I think it'll all come full circle eventually, you know.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And I do hope that many aspiring actor and stunt coordinators and everyone gets to hear this guy's advice, because it's all very true and it's all really, really applicable stuff. But that is our 4 questions done for today. And before we wrap it up, Jake, it is time for what I like to call the shameless plug. So Jake, please feel free to take a moment and promote anything that you're working on, you want people to take a look at, or just something that you believe in.
Let's see. Well, I guess I'm wearing the shirt. So Jam, this is my gym in LA. We've opened one in Atlanta as well. So if you're in LA or Atlanta, go visit Jam. It's a facility where you can train stunts, but you also train martial arts, free running, gymnastics, dance, all sorts of things. We have a new facility in LA that we just switched buildings. So this one is, I believe, 8,000 square feet, and it's got a gym, heavy bags, parkour setup, spring floor, air trick, all sorts of things. So our Atlanta facility is just opened, I think, earlier this year. So yeah, come check us out. As far as projects, I mentioned it earlier, but on Roku, Weird drops today, apparently November 4th. So go download that. I don't know if it's free or if you have to pay, but it's totally worth the money if you have to pay. It's got like a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. It's screened at multiple festivals and got nothing but positive feedback. So I think this, and I when I read the script, I said the same thing, and I still think this way. I think this one's going to go down in history. I think it's going to become a cult classic. So definitely check it out. And current projects, things that I'm working on. I don't know if I'm allowed to say necessarily what I'm working on, but I'm just gonna do this and let you guys figure it out. So there's something happening. I'm not saying what it is and how it's going to happen, but there it is. Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Anything else? Yeah. I don't know what else. If you have any ideas, feel free to throw them out there.
Yeah, it's at Action Jake on Instagram, isn't it, for people to find you?
Absolutely. Yeah. At Action Jake. One word.
Fantastic stuff. Right. I would usually sign off here, but I've got one more small request I'd like to do. Okay.
Yeah.
As the fanboy of Cobra Kai and Karate Kid and stuff, there is that fantastic scene, the fight scene where you take out, well, you didn't take him out, but you nearly did, Chosen and Johnny. And there's a bit there where Chosen gets you quite close and he's locked your arm and stuff, and he goes, "How long have you trained at Kim Sun Young Dojo?" And you're like, "My whole life." I was wondering if I could reenact the scene, and I'll give my best Chosen impression, and you do your part, if that's good for you.
Sure. How deep into this reenactment are we getting? And do you want I think the move was an elbow or something. I throw like an elbow at him right here.
Something like that.
Block it. Yeah.
Right.
So are we getting into that? Let's do that. You got to throw the block. So I don't know what his block was, but just cross your arms like that.
Yep.
There you go. And I'll throw the elbow. Bam.
Bang. Right. Boom. Yep. Got it.
So I'll throw the elbow, boom, and then you do the block.
Yes.
Ready? 3, 2, 1, action. Boom.
How long you trained at Kim Sun Young Dojo?
My whole life.
Brilliant. Okay, that's perfect. That's the fanboy in me completely sorted for the next 5-10 years or something. But hey, Jay, thank you so much for joining me today for the Talk4 podcast. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Thank you for having me, Lewis.
Awesome. Thank you guys for listening. This has been episode 43. And if you'd like to listen into our past episodes, go and have a look at our channel. And if you'd like to listen in for our future ones, you make sure to hit that subscribe button and spread some love by leaving a like and a comment. Signing off for now.